Are you having a hard time like letting go of someone, letting go of a relationship? If so, let's get into it. Sometimes people, they get into the wrong relationships with the wrong people, right? And sometimes, people don't know how to get out of relationships. They're in for different reasons. Maybe you've been in for a long time. Maybe you're not sure, if you can find someone else, or you just decide to stay in a relationship with someone. And let me just say this, because one of the things that I find, people are very confused about, that sex is not love. It can be an act of, being in love with someone and loving someone, but sex is not love. You can have sex with anybody and not love them. So if you're staying in a relationship just because the sex is good, but the relationship itself is toxic and and it's draining and it's horrible, then let me just tell you, it's not the same thing. Just because you have great sex with someone doesn't mean that you love them, and it doesn't mean that they love you. So let's talk about the fact that, people stay in relationships for the wrong reason. And sometimes, I say people stay in relationships way too long when they should just, let them go. The letting go is not just about you, it's also about the other person, because when you let go of the other person, then they're free to, live their life the way they want to. And it's not just, you who gets to, walk away and be able to be happy, but the other person, could also be happy, with someone else and finding, a different relationship and a different, partnership. So, and let me just say this, because one of the things I find is that, hurt people, and toxic people seem to attract to each other, right? And sometimes, we have these toxic bonds with people, and we think that, it's healthy. We think that we have something in common. Really, and let me just say this, this is not the kind of bond, this is not the kind of healthy bond you want to have in a relationship. So if you find that, you found someone and they have all these issues and you have these things in common, this is not a healthy type of relationship, and it's very dysfunctional. And I would say that it's probably something that you want to get out of and you want to get away from, right? So when you find, and I find this sometimes with people, is that they attract people who are unhealthy. They attract people who are hurtful. They attract people who are toxic. And some people do that because they're healers. Some people do that just because they're in these, toxic bonds with people, and they think that's a commonality that they share. But it's also a very dysfunctional way of being in a relationship. So I would say that if you find that this is the case, and you want to be in this relationship, then I would ask that you get help, seek therapy, seek counseling, seek, coaching, whatever that means for you, because long term, this is probably not going to be healthy and it's not going to work. And then there are these other people that I find who are healers. They want to help people. They're helpers, right? So they get into these relationships with people who are unhealthy, who are toxic, who are hurting, because they think they can help them and they want to help them. But those are very unhealthy relationships as well. So the thing is that, do you know when to walk away from a relationship, right? When it's not working for you. We all know when something's not working. Your body senses it, your mind senses it, your spirit senses it, your emotions sense all of these things, right? That say, this is not right. I can't pinpoint it, but I know something isn't right. That's because I always say that if there's confusion, if there's inconsistency in a relationship with someone, then it's probably not healthy. And I would say that, it's hard to walk away from these relationships where you really love people, you really care about them deeply, but you just know it's not working. And like I said, unless you're going to get help, the two of you, to try to make this work, then I would say know when to walk away. Know when to cut your losses. Know when to say, what, I'm better than this and I want something better than this. I want something more, so I'm going to let this go. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to do what we call a knife cutover, right? Which means that you just let it go right away. Sometimes you do need to build up to this. Sometimes you gradually need to talk through this and how this is going to work for not only you, but for the other person. But let me just tell you, toxic bonds are not healthy, and if you find that, you're in a one-sided relationship that's very hurtful, that's not healthy. And if you're in a relationship just because the sex is good and everything else is chaotic and crazy and horrible, then that's not healthy either. So I would say that if you're not sure. We all know when something is working and when something is not working. So the thing is that how do you get out of a relationship that's not working? It's kind of like, I always relate to work, right? Because I was working in corporate America for so long. But you come up with an exit plan that says, I'm going to take these steps so that I can make sure that I can get out of this. And then when I get out of it, I will be better for it. The other person will be better for it, hopefully, right? But an exit plan to me is what you want to do. Unless someone's really hurting you and being abusive, you may not want to just walk away right away, but you do want to come up with a plan, an exit plan that says, by this date, I'm going to do this. By this date, we're going to do this. And by the end of all of this, we're going to have this plan that says, you get to go off and live your happily forever life. And I get to go off and live my happily ever after life as well. And if not, we'll do the best that we can, but we can't be together any longer. So the best thing that we can do for each other is to allow each other to walk off into the sunset and hopefully, be able to find the person, that you're looking for, your forever person eventually. But for now, let's just make sure that we can, leave this relationship in as healthy as a position as we can, so that, we each can grow from this and grow through this as people, not necessarily as a couple anymore, or a partnership, but as people who once really, really cared about each other and maybe still do and still love each other to some degree. So I'm just saying, staying in a relationship that's toxic, staying in a relationship that's dysfunctional, staying in a relationship that's hurtful, or one where sex is great, but that's all you have, it's not the kind of relationship you want long term. So let me just say that if you're not sure about it, your heart hurts, you're always upset, you're angry about something, you're disappointed a lot, you're confused, you're frustrated. All of these things are not good things when it comes to, being in a healthy relationship. So if you're experiencing these things, right? Like I said before, either you try to get help so that you can, stay in the relationship, or you come up with what I call an exit plan. So that way the two of you can, come out of this, as healthy as possible, and hopefully still have some type of relationship, friendship, whatever that is. So that would be my 2 cents worth is, if you're, build yourself an exit plan, not just for you, but for the other person. And I guarantee you it will hurt initially, but eventually it'll get better.